And then much less, my fiance and I put our picture in the paper, in the Missourian. One of the first gay couples to be in the Missourian under the engagement. So much work for it. It was funny though, when I dropped off the picture, she's like, well, it's going to take a couple of weeks for it to be in the paper. I'm like, that's fine. Then she saw the picture and split it was 2 men. She's like, it'll be in this week. So I was like, all right. But I didn't want to put it in. I proposed last January, but I didn't want to put it in the paper because I wanted to wait until the Supreme Court ruling, which I knew was going to be in June. Because I didn't want, if anybody was going to say anything, I didn't want them to have a leg to stand on. That legally I had this right to not only get married, but to also be out and proud about it. And just like my other teacher friends and the schools that I teach in, and especially teaching elementary school, they can talk about their spouses, and there's no reason that I can't talk about my spouse and what our lives are like, just like other teachers do. So yeah, I'm really very happy to be here, and thank you guys for being here as well.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from a tiny little town in eastern Kentucky. So when I was coming out, my mom was a professor at the local community college, and you know, and I guess I had always had the tomboyish tendencies as a kid, you know, played in the dirt and wanted to go fishing with dad instead of going shopping with mom, and you know, I'll clean the dishes, I don't want to cook, these types of things. And growing up with that, you always felt weird, and you always thought something was different, and you tried on going out with guys, and you tried on going to prom, and you did all these types of things because that's what the community was doing, and you realize really quickly that this is not you in any way, shape, or form. And after graduating from high school, I went to the community college, of course, in the area, and I met a man, and he was out, and he was with his partner, and he was teaching at the college, and I realized almost instantly that I want what he has. He was so happy, and he was so happy, and still he was closeted in the sense of work. He wouldn't talk about his spouse at work, but I wanted what he had. He was so much happier, and it took, you know, a few months of hemming and hawing and talking to him about it, but then finally that celebration of coming out happened, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's very freeing. And I went to college in Round County, Kentucky, which is where Kim Davis is. And what's really funny to me in this sense is Round County is a very rural community. It's a very small, tiny community, and really the only thing in the community is the state college, Morehead State. Morehead State is a liberal arts college. We are not a sports college, and we are not anything in the mainstream. You know, you went there because you were a theater major. You went there because they had a great psychology program. You went there because their art program was phenomenal. Their music program was world known. And so the whole thing with Kim Davis and everything that came out was really surprising to my wife and I, since we went to school in that area, that it just blew up out of control, you know, and the community is actually really, really supportive in that area. So from that, moving here was amazing, because when we moved here 3 years ago now, almost 3 years ago now, it was nice to find a community that was welcoming. You know, my wife and I are both in this area, both very supportive of this area and out in this area. It's really, really nice. And then we were engaged for many, many years. We've been together now for 14 years, but you know, we got married. We did the official ceremony when it was only legal in St. Louis County. So you had to go into like Clayton in the city and these types of places to get a marriage license. And you know, you're driving in to get this marriage license and you're sweating bullets because you're waiting for hate to hit you, which is an awful feeling, and you don't want it to hit you. And it was an amazing experience, because I walk in and the clerk was just, here's the paperwork, and it's no big deal, and I'm shaking, and my wife's shaking, and we're nervous, and everything was wonderful. And literally, we got in the car And we ran back to Union, since our home is here in Union, and she asked me, she said, what do you want to do? And I said, let's get out of the car really quickly, and let's just sign this paperwork. I'm afraid it's gonna like blow up in my hands or something. And we ran into the, I work here at the college, and so this place feels like home to me. So we ran into the college, and we found a friend of mine who also is a colleague, and I said, here, witness this real quick. I want to get this done really, really quickly. So, it was amazing to me to have this experience, and now to say that I'm married and be able to say that legally all the way across the country. It's an amazing experience. And I hope anybody that's out there that's, thinking about these types of things or have these types of thoughts, find the mentors out there. We're out there. We want to help and we want to be supportive, because I would not be here today if I didn't have my mentor. I mean, he was an amazing, amazing man. I love him to death. We talk constantly on Facebook. And he's an amazing man. So find those people to talk to and know that there is a community out there for you. So, your turn.
Well, I'm going to stand up because I'm used to being a little bit of a rock star. And honestly, standing up makes me feel a little bit less nervous. Because I feel pretty naked, to be honest with you, I feel pretty naked without a guitar in my hands, because that's kind of the thing that I do. But hi, I'm Jamie, and I'm your neighbor. I grew up in Union and Washington. And a couple of people are here from high school. It's really good to see you. And I mean that because I'm seeing you as me, and you're seeing me as me, which is like the coolest feeling ever, because there's so much of myself that I had to hide from all of you. Like, there is so much that I had to hide from everyone. Growing up, I think I had my first experience like really seeing myself as who I was when I was about 5, because I had a cousin, and one of her friends were over. I was over at my cousin's house, and they had the idea to dress me up in my cousin's clothes. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. They meant it as a prank, but it ended up like with me being in someone else's clothing and looking in a mirror and finally saying like, oh, well, that's normal. Like, that's totally me. Like, when I rock this look all the time, in 5-year-old lingo, of course. I haven't always been this rad. Anyway, so I remember having that feeling, and then I remember telling someone about it, and then I remember immediately realizing that if I was ever to come out and talk about this kind of thing with anyone, that I was going to be ridiculed and shamed, and, there was a lot of religious experience or religious influence in my surrounding family and sort of in the environment, so I didn't want to get dragged to church and get fed watered down Kool-Aid and cookies, because that's the worst thing ever. But I didn't want to get ridiculed, and I was never the kid that wanted to work on cars or go hunting or play sports or anything like that. And my family wanted me to be that so badly, because contrary to the identity that I have the athletic makeup of a football player. They really wanted me to do that, but I just wanted to play in the dirt and write pretty songs about things that I liked. And that was what I was able to do as of about a year ago. I came out, and what I did was I came out on my birthday in front of about 500 people at Pops in St. Louis. It was my band was playing a show. It was my birthday. I invited all my friends and family to come out, and before we played, I kind of just said, hi, I've always been angry. I've always been kind of an angry person, and I made fun of stuff that I didn't like because, like music I didn't like. I made fun of singers that were flamboyant because they were comfortable with themselves, and I was kind of jealous because I couldn't do that. But I'm not angry anymore, and then I told the world I was a woman, and had some mixed support, but all I can say is there's more than one person in this room tonight that came to see me, and that's perfectly good enough for me. But anyway, I never wanted to go hunting, because that was kind of the thing that people did in my family. Like, they worked on cars. And oh, by the way, speaking of family, chosen family, I believe, is just as important as the family that you were given, and Logan has been family to me, so I just wanted to kind of thank him real quick. Logan is a great person, wonderful influence on me, and found me some community when I came out. Sort of what I realized growing up was that it's okay to not have a grasp on who you are in general. You know, I mean, it took me until I was almost 24 years old to realize that, you know, there was something wrong, you know, that I could fix about myself, you know, because I was always beating myself up about things that I couldn't control. And when I figured out that, you know, there was nothing wrong with me, there was just something that was uncommon and something that I could deal with and work with, that was hope, you know? That was hope that one day I could feel comfortable in my own skin instead of waking up, you know, in a waking nightmare. But it's been a wonderful year, and I found the way I sort of started to connect myself with the word transgender was I was into music, and that was the thing that got me through everything. And I found out about this punk band called Against Me when I was, I think, 21. The lead singer of this band came out as trans in Rolling Stone magazine, and you know, I was a fan of punk, and I was very queer accepting. I had gone to college, and I had gone to their GSAs and stuff, but until that point, I was just, you know, a queer, identifying white male. And so when I figured that out, or whenever I read this Rolling Stone article, it kind of like got the gears turning, but it still didn't make sense yet. But I just noticed about a couple years later, after I had listened to all these records and, you know, listened to all these lyrics and really let them hit home for me, it just kind of all built up and made sense one night. And, you know, and then as soon as I knew that there was something going on with me that I could fix, I wanted to like shout it from the mountaintops because I was such a jerk. Like I really was. Like I was a person that, you know, I would have your back, but at the same time I was so angry all the time about something that I didn't know what it was. And then when I figured it out, it was like learning how to breathe. And, you know, it's like your whole life you're holding your breath, and then, you know, someone just yanks your head out of the water, and all of a sudden you're confused and trying to figure out what's going on, but it's wonderful because you can breathe. You can finally breathe. And, you know, there was a lot of hate in my high school, and I got a lot of it just because I was a weird kid. But when people found out that I was queer, it got a lot worse. And even in like punk rock circles, where people are supposed to fight against things like racism, sexism, homophobia, things like that, I encountered a little bit of homophobia, and God knows how much transphobia is in there. But, you know, it's with the courage and the strength that I've gathered from being out and talking about my life the way it's meant to be talked about in the last year that I can proudly say that I am a trans woman in Washington, Missouri, and from Union, Missouri, and I'm gonna go change the world. Logan.
First of all, Dean, let me say that I envy your son. You see, like I said during my bio, 9 years ago I gave myself my first testosterone shot. 9 years I've been living authentic to myself. You won't see me in a dress. You're not going to be seeing me anything that's off anything but the men's rack, except for my socks, and that's just because I have a size small foot. My parents still call me she and her. They still dead name me. They still say to my kids, your mother. My son, at age 6, when we were leaving my parents after they had spent an entire day misnaming me, an entire day using the wrong pronouns. Because why can't Grandma and Grandpa get it? It's kindergarten simple. From the mouths of babes. My partner and I cheated the system almost 7 years ago. No, let's be straight. We fucked the system. We went down to St. Louis County. walked into that same clerk's office you did. Two of us, accompanied by a man who was to be our minister. He was probably the oddest looking one of the bunch. Bright crayon red mohawk, rather burly fellow, Puerto Rican, walking with a cane and muttering something under his breath. The lady looked at us from behind the counter and goes, how can I help you, gentlemen? I grinned. False bravado here. Slid our IDs across the counter and I said, we're here for a marriage license. And she looked at him and she looked at me and she looked at him and she looked at me and then she looked between us at the guy that's now sitting on the bench muttering with a cane and goes, where's the bride? And of course someone raised his hand and goes, that would be me. It wasn't me that said that. And I said, well, per your paperwork, you require one ID that says female, one ID to be male. You have that in front of you. I don't think I can do that, she says. I don't think I can do that. Well, I stopped her in her tracks right quick. Because I said, if you can't do that, then tomorrow morning, I'm going to be back in here. And I'm going to have 7, 2, 4, 5, 11, 30, the Post, Lambda Legal, ACLU, whoever the hell I can get in here. And you can explain to them why you're violating my civil rights. Because according to your paperwork, if you refuse me a marriage license, you're violating my civil rights. She's like, well, you're just going to have to wait. I have to call my supervisor. Because, of course, this is the week after Christmas, and her supervisor's on vacation. She calls the supervisor, talks to her on the phone for 5 minutes. Then she comes up to the counter and says, can you step back here, please? Well, that's the first please she said to me. I'll take that as an improvement. I go back. I pick up the phone. I don't give the supervisor a minute to talk. Because they've already talked about violating my rights. They've already talked about stopping me from being able to marry the person who I love. I'm not going to let her start telling me that they can't do it. I tell her point blank, the problem you have right now is your clerk is refusing to issue a legal Missouri marriage license. If that does not get corrected, I will be back with television and print news, and I will be back with lawyers. And you will have a lawsuit and bad publicity as far as I can spread it. Because I already had a plan. Because that ID that I handed her had a male name for me and a male name for my partner. So our marriage license, maybe just like anybody else's out there, but in 2008, we had a marriage license with 2 male names. I can tell you the first thing I did once we got it all signed, I got a photocopy of it, and I sent it to A.J. Bockelman. He was executive director of promo. He just recently stepped down. I've known Jamie since before Jamie was out as Jamie. I grew up in Spring Bluff. And if you're local, you know where Spring Bluff is. Blink, you'll miss it. I was dragged out of the boys' bathroom in kindergarten because I told them that was where I belonged. My poor mother had to bring clothes to school every day until I was in 3rd grade because I refused to use that bathroom, that girl's bathroom. Oh no, no way. I wasn't going in there. Girls weren't there. I mean, I didn't belong in there. I didn't realize until I was 8 that I wasn't biologically male. And the only reason I found that out was I saw my brother peeing behind a bush. And I realized that what they've been saying was right. You can imagine the mind mess that does to an 8-year-old kid. I didn't have words like trans, transgender, genderqueer, questioning. I didn't even know what, LGBT, any of that stuff. Because you gotta realize, I was doing this in the late 70s, early 80s. And when I finally heard the word transgender, I was in my 20s.